All right, so topic for today. As luck was out, I was gluing a bunch of material together for cheese slices, etc., and try as hard as I like. I don't often clean my clamps, or I forget to clean my clamps, or I just get lazy and I'm excited about the end product and grab the wood and go into the shop and finish it, and I'll worry about the clamps later. So the end result is you end up with glue on the clamps. And for some clamps, that's not a big deal, but on pipe clamps, it'll start interfering with the mechanism. And certainly on Bessie clamps, if you get enough glue on them, they suddenly won't function anymore. You can't get them across the glue. And so you have to deal with it. So that's what today's topic is. I brought in 2 of mine, and I've got 1 from the shop. And you can see the shop ones get abused pretty good, just simply because they get used a lot, and a lot of glue gets on them. But there are things you can do to help eliminate it. The glues are very good right now and very strong. And I use Type Bond 3 in my boards, in the cheese slicers. And it's water resistant, it's a very good glue, and it's very strong, and it sticks to metal like crazy. And so it's not as if you could just go in and sweep the mechanism back and forth across the metal and it will suddenly fly off. If you slide it across the glue, it will land and stick, and then you'll have a heck of time releasing it. I've got one that's like that now with a clamp that is stuck. It's on the glue, and I'll have to work at it to get it off, but it's just die.
No, it's okay. There you go.
So, so that's the end of the lesson. So, you just take all your clamps at dawn, and you can free it up. You still can't close it.
No, it's stuck.
This thing is acting up. What is that?
What you want?
No, just the wire, I think. Test 1, 2.
Why don't you hand him the chisel and then
Yeah.
fix that?
Yeah, take the chisel to it. So, and this is a shop one, and I'll get a picture of that guy. So mine's behind it with a few ones, and the shop's the front one, and because the glue will pool underneath and then get a nice big glob, and that's what you have trouble getting past. With the Bessie clamps, the clamping mechanism depends on the ridges underneath for good grip, and that's what it seals against as you tighten it up. That's where collectively it gets a grip. And so as those start clogging up, you have less and less capability. So the key is, how do you get rid of that? And it's manual. There are lots of things out there. There's some good topics on the web about how to remove the glue. And a lot of guys do research on chemicals, and they talk about all kinds of chemicals that will soften it and do all kinds of great things. They're all dangerous chemicals to use in the shop. I didn't feel very comfortable about it. But bottom line on it is you can clear out the glue in your clamps with just a simple chisel and some manual labor. Sit down all night with the TV on and watching the leaves loose and scrape away at the glue. So, the weapon of choice is my handy dandy chisel. Like that. It's got a few nicks in it. It was given to me by a person that said, "Oops, you're a woodworker. I've got these old chisels. I don't want them. Have at it." And they're pretty beat up. But that's okay, because it's not my chisels for doing, finished work or anything like that. This is just my garbage go-to chisel when I need to just chunk out some glue on a piece of wood or clean my clamps. But it's sharp. So I always keep it with a sharp edge. It's not perfect, that's for sure. So the process is very simple. I just, in this case I've got glue on the sides here. On the clamp here. So the glue's sitting on the side. I'll just play with this mic as it gets in and out. And all I'll do is it's not pretty, and you get in the groove by just a little bit of pressure, and you end up sweeping the glue pieces out. Flip it over, do the same thing. And you can get that glue to peel off. And it ends up, flicking out. I don't know if you can get that or not, or see the pieces. So the glue will just flake off. So it's not that hard of a physical labor to do it. You just have to have a very sharp chisel. You'll put an edge on it, and then you just go at it. And then you can now move your clamp back and forth without an issue.
What about the ridges?
The ridges, I go across the top on the ridges to get most of it out. And then if it gets really bad, I'll take a wire, the typical wire brush on the end of the drill. You may get a Canadian Tire. And you just take the wire brush on the drill and just brush it a little bit. And most of the times it doesn't bother me too much. I can still get a good clamping force, but these aren't as beat up as these guys. When you look at these, it's got significantly more issues with glue in the grooves than mine does. But it's just a case of time. This is just time. So if you don't take care of your clamps, this is what's going to happen. So then the question is what do you do? Right? I'm going to take it back to the shop, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it again. I'm going to use it for gluing, and I'm going to mess it up. So the easiest treatment is get a paste wax. Just as the paste wax that you use. Man, this thing's really bad. Paste wax that you use for doing your table saws with, or lathe beds, just to make it smoother after you get the rust off, right? And I just take a little bit of paste wax. All you have to do is rub it on the surface. On the front and the back. And it doesn't take much. And what the wax will do is it will put a little bit of a layer on there so that the next time the glue makes contact with it, it won't be as tough to get off. It will still stick, but it won't be as tough. And then that's cleaning off any residue. And now it glides really well. You can feel it's got, a little bit of slipperiness in it. It moves much better than that mechanism there when you move it back and forth. And that's just simple application of a little bit of wax. And then the next time I glue up, I'll still, not attend to it because I'm too busy building stuff, and I'll end up with, having to chisel it off again. But that's basically as simple as it gets with bar clamps. You can do with these types of clamps. With the bar clamps, you can do the same thing. Just take an old chisel, it's going to get wrecked a little bit, but it doesn't matter. You're just going to sweep off the glue, but apply a little bit of wax, and then that mechanism runs much more efficiently. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I know. It keeps cutting it in and out. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll ditch this. Yeah, so it's just that simple, of a process. A sharp chisel, and take a little bit of time, get most of the glue off. In Bessie clamps, it's nice to get the grooves clear, but I don't always sit there and get really anal about it to make sure everything's off. But a little bit of wax goes a long way, I've found, on the clamps. So now I've got that mechanism loosened up on this, then I can go about the same process. And it's just that, you're done. And then you're good for the rest of the time on your clamps, and your clamps will be behaving much better. Because there's nothing more frustrating, like I said when I did the glue up, you get everything set up, and the first thing you do is you set your clamps up to make sure they can clamp, and you find out it doesn't. Right, and then all of a sudden you've got to tear the clamp out and fix it all up and struggle with it. But in this case, this is a nice mechanism to do it when you get a chance. So when you're watching a hockey game where you've got an hour to spend out in the sunshine, just break out the chisel, don't hurt yourself, don't run with sharp things, and chisel away the glue. Any questions? Yes?
Not a question, but a comment.
Yeah.
I use mineral wax and beeswax, or mineral oil beeswax.
And beeswax. Yeah.
First grade too.
Yeah, and then that gets it slippery enough and it cleans it up as well. Yeah. Anybody else got experience, Don?
I have those and they're a mess, and I cleaned them all up, and now I use wax paper underneath them every
Underneath
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And normally I do, but sometimes I get busy and I'm excited about getting things, or I've got time pressures, self-inflicted time pressure, but nonetheless, and you say, well, I'll do that later. So you procrastinate. Yes, Wayne?
I thought I'd be smart and use packing tape and wrap my the whole thing in packing tape.
Was that smart?
It worked great the first time, and then I spent 3 hours trying to get the packing tape on. Don't do that. What I use is wax paper. I just transfer wax paper and put them down on the boards, and then glue it up, and it keeps my clamps very clean.
Yeah, Margo was saying that the last time when we were talking about, you were using parchment paper. So it's nice to put something across, but let's face it, I'm gluing 16 boards together. I've got a whole bunch of joints to put together, and I look at it as a process of the lesser of two evils. So I said, do I take the time and protect my clamps and, go through all the process? So now I've got 16 pieces of wax paper on all my clamps, or some of my clamps, to get it all right and make sure it doesn't move as I'm clamping it. Or do I just clamp the damn thing, let the glue dry on it, and scrape it off? Right? So my tendency is I err on that side more than I would the other side, in my own personal experience, because I'll look at it and say, no, I'll just glue it up. And in a lot of cases, when I'm using my boards to put my pieces on to keep them up, then there's less glue going on the clamps because the clamps are a little bit lower. And so you get spotty as opposed to a glue gob that's going to wrap around the glue, or wrap around the clamp. Yeah?
I hear wax paper, and I have no experience with this, but would it not make sense to put a piece of wax paper right on top of the bar?
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's what you're talking
Yeah, wax paper goes right on top of the bar.
Yeah.
And then you clamp, and you put your wood on it, and you clamp it all together. But wax, like I said, so if you get into that process and get that discipline, fantastic. I don't have that discipline. I tend to just say, yeah, I got a lot of clamping I got to do, I got a lot of gluing to do, and it's 9 o'clock at night and I want to go to bed. So I'll glue up and let it cook overnight, and come in the next day and say, oh yeah, I'm going to have to clean up my clamps one of these days. And so I come here and I demo, and I've got one clean. There we go. Yeah, Bo.
Chris, where do you find the face wax?
Paste wax?
Yeah.
Well, Home Hardware, Home Depot, Canadian Tire. Yeah. It's in the Minwax with finishes, etc. Rona.
Products, anywhere that carries good wax products. Okay, I think people,
Yeah. May not under the Minwax. Well, they should though. I think that's.
Home Depot doesn't carry.
They don't carry
They don't carry Minwax.
Oh, you have to go to Lowe's.
Yeah, Lowe's.
They gave that Peacocks.
Home Hardware carries Minwax, so they're just around the corner from me, so that's probably where I got it. But, you know, any type of paste wax, it doesn't have to be min wax, but it's a paste wax that you use. It's the wax that you use to keep your table saw running nice. On the top of your router table, so things are smooth. It's the same when I do my jointer, when I did the jointer planer. You know, wood will start to grip that metal, even though the metal feels smooth. It's not. And metal on metal or wood on metal, it develops the fibers stick on that top, and they don't move as smoothly as you'd like them to do. And when my planer starts doing that, then I just say, okay, that's enough. And I open it up, unplug it, go in there with a coat of paste wax, buff it all on, and then wait for 10-15 minutes, and I wipe it all back off with a paper towel. And then that wood sails through there. And it's like a totally different machine. Same thing with the jointer. It just glides across the wax. And that will last for a little while, and then you'll start feeling it. It's like you're pushing the wood through, but it's not gliding anymore. It's a little grippy. And so you just say, okay, fine, time to wax it. Yes, sir?
Is it on the bed itself that you're doing it, or do you do the blades?
No, just the bed. I don't wax the blades.
Okay.
Because the only thing that comes in contact on the blade is that one knife edge.
Yeah.
So just the bed. There, in-feed and out-feed tables, and the bed of the thickness planer. Anything that's running across there. Router table, same thing. Do your router tabletop, and all of a sudden your wood will just glide across. Makes it easier. All right, so that's it for a short demo on clamping. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, and the other thing I wanted to mention was something that came to mind when Chris talked about these grinding wheels. The job I had prior to retirement, I go through at least 2 of these a day. So I consider myself a little bit of an expert on grinding wheels. And I just wanted to share a safety tip. Every time you mount a wheel on a grinder, you ring it to make sure it's not cracked. I'll demonstrate if I can. Usually I used a wrench because that's what I had in my hand, but I happen to have a steel tool here. See if we can hear it. You hear the ringing? Yeah, that one's good. If they don't ring, if you don't get that echoing ring or continuing ring, you know that wheel's got a crack, don't put it on. Let's try this one. Yeah, that's another good one. Try it this way, make it look better. Yeah, that one's okay. You never know. You go through, 50 wheels, and they're all good. But then all of a sudden, there's one with a crack. I mean, throw it in the bin or take it back to the store you bought it from. But for me, it was just throw it in the bin because I used to get stacks of them that were that high.
Why not use it?
Pardon me?
Why not use it?
Because it's cracked.
It'll break.
It'll blow up on you when you put it on the grinder. Okay. Pieces are flying speed of bullets. Yeah, it'll get seriously hurt.
Thanks, Mike, that's a good tip. Yeah, didn't know about that.
So while I was at the back, Chad actually brought up a big jug. And this is mineral oil that we were talking about from last week. And one of the ways he uses to warm up, to heat the wax, is using basically a coffee warmer and a little plate, and that warms up the beeswax. I thought that was a really good suggestion. And this is the gallon that he picks up at Rhoda?
Rona, North Oshawa, $30 after taxes.
Perfect.
Yeah, I just ordered a gallon of it.
Was it really? Okay, excellent. So thank you, Chad, for bringing that in. That's awesome. Okay, What have I forgotten? Oh, tips and jigs. We had a couple of tips come in. I know, Wayne, you brought in a very big jig, so.
Watch your time, though. Time.
Yeah, I know we gotta get going, so. We have a lot going on tonight, don't we?
I know, the gallery was good.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Come this
I'll bring it
way,
back.
come this way.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Train, you want that?
Perfect, yeah. I use a drill press for drilling my holes for my hinges, or holes for the holes for my hinges, or holes for my doors. And I'll do quite a few at a time. This is the latest one I've got going. I've got 14 doors, so that's a considerable number of holes. And every one of your holes you want to be drilled exact location. Most drill presses are not all that good for wood. They're basically designed for metal. And so what I've done, I've hooked up a flat plate. This part here, it bolts on to the plate of the drill press. So it drills straight on this way. I made sure I have a sliding fence, and this one here slides along this way. And so whenever I'm going to do a door, if I want it to be exactly 3/16 inch in, I lock it down, and I want it to be exactly 4 inches from the end, I lock it down, I put one in, drill, put one in, drill, put one in, drill, and then I change it around to this side. I do the same on that side, and so it allows you to use a drill press in a fashion for wood. And what I've also done here, there's a hole underneath here. This connects to the vacuum, and I have a hole. I have another one of these plates that has a hole, and I use my drum sander. And so the drum sander will be fitting right here. There's a hole underneath. So as I'm sanding, I have the vacuum going. It takes the dust right out into the vacuum right away. Again, I'm a big fan of plywood and MDF. Plywood is not as smooth as you would like it to be. MDF is a nice smooth finish. So I sandwich the plywood with MDF. I have the couple of tracks. I just bought at Busy Bee, I think. And you cut a couple of slots right here in the end. And what you do is you just have 5/8 birch. I put MDF, and because you sandwich it, you have a hole which allows your slot, and so you can put your slide in and out.
Did you use a set of plans to make that way, or did you just make that on your own?
I actually saw it in a magazine. It didn't have quite anything in it. I said, you know, I can do that, and so I have a drawer, and I use this for some of my different parts and that. Again, I just use Baltic birch, and that's it.
So you bolt up through the plate, do you?
I'm sorry?
You bolt, you attach it to your drill press, you
Yes, it's underneath.
Drill.
And this, if you had like a bench top drill press, I don't know whether you have enough like throat distance or clearance, but I have a stand-up drill press,
Yes.
and I can make it do all the things it's supposed to do anyways.
That's awesome. Looks great.
Wayne, what Saturday do you want to put on that show? I'm sure. What's that?
Usually I'm the first one to ask that question, but okay. Excellent, thank you, Mike.